Coming up next, The Bookening, Season 1, Redux, Part 2. This is part 2 of the Year in Review. Welcome to the Year in Review. My name is Nathan Alberson, and I will now perform a freestyle rap. Give me a beat, somebody. My name is Nathan, and I'm here to say I think books are really okay. In fact, I think they're really great. If I had to take a book and rate it, I would rate it 10 out of 10. And then I would say, and then, because... Well, my name is Nathan, and I'm still here to say this is my This is my very favorite day because we're recording the Bookening, and so it makes me want to sing, but not sing, actually rap, because I think all singing is really crap. The Beatles are dumb, they're so bad, and Aerosmith makes me sad, but my favorite person is Dr. Dre. It's like that guy had a brain ray, and he shot it into my brain, and it made me go insane with the things that I really loved, and oh my heaven above. Okay. Welcome to the Bookening. My name is Nathan Alberson. I am your humble and obedient host. As always, 20 odd episodes in. I'm still humble. I'm still obedient. Couldn't be more humble. Couldn't be more obedient to you, our listener, who I love. And Jake Menzel is here, the pastor who's a master of reading. How you doing, Jake?
Great.
That's good. I'm glad to hear it. And Brandon.
Hey,
oh, go ahead.
How are you doing?
I'm doing okay.
Just okay?
Yeah, you know.
Oh.
I'm stoked to be here. Excited to be here with my two best friends recording the Bookening.
That sounds like you should be more than okay.
I'm always stoked to be everywhere. So
It sounds like denial.
It is a denial.
Do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, I'm actually really depressed.
I love you.
Thanks. That makes one of us. And we're joined also by the man. There he is. Look at that chiseled jawline underneath a mound of fat. Yep. Like, where's the chiseling?
It's hidden.
It's hidden underneath
protected.
Fat. Like an uncarved Mount Rushmore. Like, they got done with the top half, but they didn't do the bottom half. I'm sorry, Brandon. Did I hurt your feelings?
I still love you.
Okay.
Makes two of us now.
Yep. That makes two people, 2 out of 3. Not so bad. He is, of course, a man with a fantastic sense of humor about his own obesity. At least my fingers are crossed.
Oh, that's great.
And I, of course, can make fun of Brandon because, as a certain mysterious phantom I believe mentioned in a couple episodes ago, one of us is, in fact, Jumbo. That would be me. And Brandon's Dumbo. He's got the big ears and...
Yep.
He can fly if he holds a feather in his trunk.
That's right.
What am I?
You're the mouse. Or one of those racist crows, maybe.
Why do I gotta be racist?
That's what they are. Aren't there like some jive-talking crows?
I've seen about anything or everything. What is it? When I see an elephant fly.
Yeah. There's a jive racist crows.
I'm a giant racist crow.
Yeah. Not giant, jive. Like,
What's going on?
Anyway, he's right there. He's Brandon Chastain. He's my friend. He's actually much less fat than I am. There's a really fat person in the room. The person that is occupying the most space out of this room is me. But he's a very handsome fellow. He's married. I'm not. And his pen is cooler. He's got a pen in his pocket. I've got a Sharpie pen, which I argue is a fine pen.
It is a fine pen.
What do you got?
Not the best.
It is a precise rolling ball.
A rolling.
I used to use those
Jake has like a fancy.
Oh, those are good pens there.
Pilot Varsity. It's a
Actually, that's
disposable
not.
fountain
You've got
pen.
like a $40 pen though. Usually, you carry around. Don't you?
No, I gave that up a long time ago. Actually,
No.
I prefer these disposable fountain pens to my Lamy All Star or whatever it was.
Jake is now holding up a Pilot Varsity. It's got the little curved tip at the bottom. It's a very traditional looking pen.
And I've got a Pilot Precise. This episode is brought to you by Pilot Pens.
Pilot pens.
You can buy Pilot Pens at any of your Walmart stores. Pilot.
You can't buy the Pilot Varsity at Walmart. Sadly, you can buy it like Staples in a pack of like blue, purple, and black, or you can get on like Amazon or something and buy like a box of blue, which is what I did.
But if anyone is really listening to this, I highly recommend the Sharpie pen. It will not bleed. It will not smear. It writes beautifully. It lasts forever. I love the Sharpie pen. I stand by it. It will be my pen. I will be clutching one in my dead fingers when I die, probably, if I happen to be writing something with my Sharpie pen.
They're not actually that nice to write with. Just the pen to paper feel is not very nice. That's why I prefer the Pilot Varsity. I think if you're going for something in between, then you probably want actually what Brandon has.
So you're highbrow, I'm lowbrow.
Pretty nice paper fill.
Oh, mine's about the flow and the feeling of writing with the fountain pen. Yours is about pragmatism.
Sheer utility.
And Brandon Pilot Precise is right in between. It has the best flow of anything that's not a fountain pen that you could want, but it doesn't have the non-smudgeability or whatever of Nathan's Sharpie.
But to me, non-smudgeability is like one of the number one things I look for in a pen. If Brandon's pen smudges, then it doesn't matter what other qualities it has, it's out.
It smudges.
Yeah, well.
Smudges only happen when you're careless with your hands, though, so why?
Yeah, come on. I use this thing for work.
My pen should be able to see me through, not being, it should be able to bear with my weakness. A good pen makes me look good even on the days where I'm tired or where I'm going to smudge. The Sharpie pen is forgiving. The Sharpie pen bears with me. The Sharpie pen overlooks a multitude of sins.
Whereas the Pilot Varsity is for those who, like me, need no forgiveness.
Yeah.
Now, listener, you decide. All right, best prose style, guys. Here it goes.
I'm just going to move that we discount Shakespeare forever and always in this discussion because
I second the
he's
motion.
in a class
I
of his own.
third that motion.
So then I think there's no question that it comes down to three, and that's Jane Austen, Ernest Hemingway, and Marilyn Robinson.
Does anybody want to make an argument for Huck Finn before we accept those three?
I think, well, shoot.
I think you can make the argument, sure.
You can make the argument.
We got to narrow it down somehow here, guys.
He wrote in a dialect consistently throughout the whole book. And he didn't stray from it, and it's really hard to do. And I don't think any of the other writers were under that challenge.
Mm-hmm, that's true.
Hemingway actually was. Hemingway, the way he wrote almost in Spanish while writing in English was a really amazing thing.
That's true.
That's
He
true.
gave that whole book this sort of Spanish feel while writing in English. It was a remarkable feat.
If I had to eliminate any from that group, the first I would eliminate would be Marilyn Robinson.
From the four or from the
From
three?
the four.
Okay. So you'd eliminate
I
Robinson
wouldn't.
before
You
Twain.
wouldn't.
No.
So she would stay in there before Twain.
Yeah.
So you get rid of Twain.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
But Jake, think about the thunderballs and think about the lightning storm and think about the best of put the best of Twain against the best of Robinson, and the best of Twain might beat it. Now you might argue that Robinson gives you more.
That's true. Robinson gives you more consistency, right?
Yeah, I know she has a little gem on every page, but I don't know.
Are you arguing Twain's the best?
Not necessarily. I'm just
He's
arguing.
just trying to keep it interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I think each of those four have their arguments, and I don't know how to make an objective standard except.
Well, let me try something and see if you guys bite.
Okay.
I move that we remove Austen, give her a special jury prize for best articulator. She articulates thoughts like nobody's business and it blows your mind. But in terms of feeling and prose style and kind of describing things, she doesn't even try. She doesn't.
That's not what she does.
She doesn't even belong. Arguably, she doesn't belong in this category. As wonderful as what she does, it's not actually what we're talking about.
Okay.
So I move special jury prize for Austen. But if somebody wants to say Austen belongs in a contest with these other guys, we can.
Well, I mean, the case to make is that she exposits so much. And to be able to exposit as poetically and beautifully as she does without losing you that's a style achievement.
Oh, sure, it is.
But I'm I'm glad to take her out of it because I do think I don't want to go as far as you and say that she's the, what did you say, the Shakespeare of women, but man, maybe she is. She is definitely in a different.
She's in a different category.
I mean, she's amazing. What a mind. I mean, I'd put her mind against Hemingway's.
She'd wipe the floor with Hemingway.
She wipes the floor with Hemingway.
The problem with Hemingway isn't his style; it's his immaturity.
Well, if the Bookening taught us one lesson, or taught me one lesson this year, maybe I should save this for our recap at the end. But content is king.
Yeah,
content is king.
Well,
East of Eden is the purplest, as I like to say the word purple. It's not the best written book, but
if we're judging by style, Steinbeck goes down toward the bottom. But who cares? Who cares?
But it's almost like you can't really, for the sake of a silly, discussion like this, you have to, but can you really separate the two? And if you can't separate the two, then Jane wins by virtue of being the best thinker.
I agree with that.
But
we're giving her a special jury prize, so we can do this.
All right, we've all agreed on the special jury.
Okay, so Twain, I'm not voting for Twain simply because of the first part and the last part of the book. The beauty and the consistency comes in the middle, but I'm not sure it holds up.
But is that a story consideration or a style? You think the style actually falters at the beginning?
Yeah, and the end? I think he's right. I think it's both.
He falls back. Yeah, I never would have thought of that if he didn't say that. Yeah. But he finds his footing, and then he loses his footing with he just reverts into his sort of jokey style, doesn't he?
Yeah. So then, if I'm thinking of just the prose that moved me the most,
we've got it down to
it's either
Hemingway
at the end of For Whom the Bell Tolls. I mean, that's pretty moving when he's touching the tree, the way he describes that. And some of the scenery with Pilar's story is very vivid. He can paint a picture with words. But then so can Marilyn Robinson. You have the sprinkler, the drops coming from that, the baptismal scene.
The church scene.
Yeah. Who would I show a student?
That actually makes it easy for me.
Who's trying to learn how to write.
I would say Hemingway's the answer there.
Yeah.
Because he's simple, he's sparse. They might get bad habits from Robinson. They might decide they need to ape something about her, whereas Hemingway can only just teach you to cut and to find, to keep it simple. So I don't know that actually answers our question, but if you're just
show, don't tell, show, don't tell, show, don't tell, show, don't tell.
He had his style.
Subtle. Yeah. Less is more, less is more, less is more. Those are the lessons of Hemingway, and he just hammers them home to you.
And you don't remember those metaphors like you do the poetry of Robinson, but poetry is a dangerous thing to give to someone who's too young for it. So
well, but that's not I think the fair test.
No, it's not the fair test.
The fair test is who has the poetry in their style as well.
Man, I don't want to give it to Robinson then.
Well, sorry, I think that's your prejudice against her modernity. I think she's better than Hemingway. I think the reason,
but you make your argument.
I think.
Can we bring Jane back into this?
What about Dickens?
I think the reason that horrible story stands is because it's propped up by an amazing prose stylist. Mm-hmm. And I think Hemingway's working with a lot better story. Even if we say the stories are immature, his set pieces,
it's a war-torn romance. You can't hard to go wrong with that, I suppose.
But Gilead, all that props it up and holds it up is just this beautiful, amazing sense of style, and these insights into human nature so subtly woven through everything. It's just really, really beautiful. And if you've got the time and the will to enter into her pace and accept it for what it is, I think it's a really special book. I just didn't find that to be that compelling, but I couldn't step aside, and I can't pretend that I think she's amazing. And I think that there's a lot to like about and really love about Hemingway's style, and how revolutionary it was or whatever. But you have a similar sort of thing going there. Twain, Hemingway, and Robinson are all requiring you to do things. Twain is requiring you to accept the dialects of all of his characters as a part of his style. Does he pull it off or doesn't he? Do you like it or not? That's a question. Hemingway is requiring you to do all kinds of weird things with this sort of Spanish cadence that he gives. It's amazing that he pulls it off. There are a lot of really great things about it. Robinson's doing the same thing. She's requiring you to stop and to slow down. And we all read that book under pressure. And I think to be able to step back, take the book for what it is and judge it by what it is, not for what we wanted or needed it to be for us, given the constraints of the show and everything else. I just think she's masterful. And so I also am prejudiced against a modern writer. I have my prejudices against that book and wanting to give it any credit whatsoever because of hype and all kinds of things that surround it. But I can't bring myself to deny how wonderful a writer she is. And I think, if I'm being honest with myself, I have to give her the prize for style. And that does fly in the face of a lot of things. And maybe it flies in the face of history, and maybe I'll regret that stand even in a couple of years. But
maybe you'll be the hero of the Bookening, the one guy among the cynics that's... But I just think if that's true, I see what you're saying, but your argument just makes me despair, because I think if you can really prove that Marilynne Robinson is the best stylist, then that just shows how little I care about style, because that book just didn't... I mean, spoiler alert, I'm going to say that that's the book that I didn't like the least, probably, of anything we read this year, but we'll get to that later.
Do you want to try and say that again?
What did I say?
The book you didn't like?
Oh, sorry, double negative. The book that I didn't not like the least.
Nicely done.
This year. Style is what hits you in the gut. Gilead was just a tiny bit sickly sweet, a little poetic, a little raindrops, a little Hallmark, a little everything's always in slow motion and everything's sun-drenched and everything's washed out in the movie version, and it's just like, it's slowed down so we can see the bubbles, and there's some beautiful moments, but nothing's going to stick with me like the cave in For Whom the Bell Tolls, or the dialogue, or honestly the death scenes, or the sex scenes. I mean, if I'm just going to be honest, and the way that Hemingway pulls those off, and yes, you could argue that's content trumping other content, but I think the style is so inexplicably linked. I mean, the fact that the sex and death scenes are so lame, the story in For Whom the Bell Tolls is so, we didn't like it. And I didn't like it, but the way that he makes those things, evokes those things, is powerful. And I think I prefer personally his simplicity. I mean, all that Robinson has is her style. And at the end of the book, you feel a little bit, or I felt a little bit exhausted by it. Like, this was all you had. And, it's like eating calorie,
spoiler alert, I never finished it. And it was for the same reasons. And so I don't know why I feel the way I do about it, because as I listen to you talk, it's like, I can call up the images from Hemingway much more easily than I can call them up from Robinson. But I think in the moment entering into it, I want to say I was more moved by Robinson.
Yeah, I mean, if I was just going to take a quote and sew it onto a quilt or make a meme out of it, I guess I'd go with Gilead, I mean, it pulls out.
Wow, thanks.
It's the most memeable. Well, I don't mean to be condescending about it. I mean, it's these nice little bite-sized chunks that work as their own thing. But I don't know. Maybe the real argument I'm making is Twain here. What do you think, Brandon?
You're making an argument for Twain?
Well,
I haven't
Here's
yet.
the thing. We're ending up arguing for two of our most disappointing books across the board.
Yeah.
Right? We're talking... I don't think there's any question that For Whom the Bell Tolls and Gilead sit squarely at the bottom of the pile. Mm-hmm. And so maybe part of what we're trying to do is justify reading them in the first place.
Yeah.
I don't quite know, but I think, would I read them again? Would I recommend them be read again? I don't even know if these are the right questions. If we're going to go with what moves us, then forget them. Let's go with Twain, or let's go with Steinbeck even. Let's bring Austen and Shakespeare back into the conversation.
But if you're going to go with pure technique, I still think Hemingway might have it. I mean, the precision that guy has. And we haven't really eliminated Twain. Twain could still be our dark horse. But what are your thoughts, Brandon? We haven't heard from you on those three.
It's hard to decide what we mean by style. If it's just the prose that's on the page, I think Hemingway has it. If it's the prose mixed with poetry, I think Robinson has it. If it's prose mixed with what I'm going to actually remember and care to read again, then I think Twain has it. I don't think that I can discount all of Twain's prose just because of the beginning and the end. Mm-hmm. I think that the scenes on the raft, where they're going to the cities, they're seeing the lights, the scene where he realizes he's offended Jim, those are masterful. the whole the tragedy of that one family, the feud. All this is just, it's beautifully drawn.
Okay, what if we did this? What if we separated this idea of style into a couple of things? Like, who's the best at painting a scene? Who's the best at evoking
a feeling,
an emotion? And who's the best? Well, I don't think there's a third thing. Is there?
The best at painting a scene, I think, would go to Twain.
Well, it cuts Robinson out.
Yeah.
And it makes it between Hemingway and Twain.
I think Twain, for me, just narrowly nudges out Hemingway. That last scene of For Whom the Bell Tolls is really powerful.
I'm going to go with Hemingway.
Yeah.
I like Twain way better, and I love those raft scenes. But all Hemingway is a movie that plays in your head. It's scene to scene, and it's very vivid.
You can smell the campfire.
I can call it back.
The pine, the scent of pine.
I can call the pictures. I can watch that movie in my head in a way I can't watch the movie of any of these other books.
Well, and it's a little bit like a movie with a John Williams score where the score is just doing all the work. It's like they had sex, nothing interesting about that. He got shot. It's like all the interest comes from the style. And yes, Gilead is kind of the same way. But I guess even Twain, I guess all three of these stories are stories that, hey, they're floating on a raft. Who cares? Yeah. Hey, Robert Jordan and Maria are having puppy love. Who cares? East of Eden is still a story of biblical proportion, however it's told, you could argue.
Yeah, you can see Spain. You can feel the pines. You can feel the tree trunk as he fills it at the end.
This might just come down to personal preference. For me, Hemingway is more... Robinson feels poetic, and there's something about that I don't like. It's
she evokes the feelings.
If we're going to go who evokes the best feelings, yeah... Maybe,
she does.
Maybe she wins.
Because she's punchy.
The slow motion kind of the sun going down and the moon coming up in the graveyard, that's something I'll remember.
The scene in the church.
Yeah.
I think the real answer to this question is that you can't separate style from content, and that's what we're really talking around here.
That's right.
Anybody want to argue that?
No, I don't.
That's really
against it.
And that style, is something of a personal preference. I mean,
yeah.
I don't want to say it's all
but
subjective.
I think what we're saying is that style can get you a lot of points with a certain type of person, but it ain't us.
Not us, baby.
It ain't us. Take your style and go home.
Yeah, the style in all three of those books is wonderful. I don't know. I think this is going to be the question that I'm going to regret tomorrow, that I didn't just come up with the smashing argument for why Twain wins, maybe, or this is going to be what do the French call it? Like the refrigerator wit or stare wit or whatever their phrase is for, the thing that you think of the thing that this smashing comeback I should have had for Jake that I'll think as I get my, Jell-O out of the pudding or whatever. Jell-O out of the pudding. As I get my Jell-O out of the fridge. I'll think, oh, I should have said that to Jake. He would have started crying and he would have known that Twain was the best. And I don't know that Twain is the best. That's just, I plucked that example from nowhere. It'd be Twain or Hemingway for me, not Robinson. But that may just be me hating Robinson's lame story.
Yeah, Twain and Hemingway, they do very similar things as far as the images that you see. Remember.
I don't know that it's entirely fair to say that I'm predisposed to hate. I don't know. I'm examining myself and trying to decide if I just don't like Robinson as much. She's losing points because she's modern. Maybe that's true. I don't know.
I don't think I could make a case for it, but I do feel that the only way it comes across is how intent you've been over the course of this show to defend anybody who has been considered a time-honored classic.
Yeah, Hemingway's a really good example of that. Going into Hemingway, I was sending you guys notes on our Slack forum that, guys, we really have to do Hemingway justice. Nobody likes him anymore. He's out of critical favor. We need to... And then I was disappointed Hemingway didn't come through for me. But my instinct was to help a guy out. And my instinct was to be suspicious of Robinson. That's very true. But listen, Robinson's great. She deserves to be in this conversation. I'll say that. Her prose style is amazing. The bubbles, if Robinson goes down in posterity, it'll be because she was a great prose stylist. I don't want to take that away from her. Who are we going to give the award to? Should we just give it to Jane Austen and be done with this?
Give it to Jane Austen.
Yeah, let's give it to Jane.
All right, Jane, come on down.
Come on, surprise win.
All right, you can split it with Billy S. Do I want to say worst prose style?
Bram Stoker.
Yep.
Anybody want to argue for Steinbeck?
Nope.
Bram Stoker. What about Dickens with all his annoying?
Nope.
Okay.
It is Brahms.
Kipling.
Sorry,
Kipling.
No.
Nope. Ricky Tikki Tavi's awesome.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
The first part of Dracula's pretty good.
Yeah.
Well, Bram Stoker.
Still Bram.
Bram Stoker's always like, and then I had an uncanny feeling of the uncanny, uncannily creeping up on me. Are you getting that this was uncanny here? All right, sorry, Bram. You get a special prize for nothing. I still like you, though, buddy. You saw me through my teenage years. I don't know if we're going to actually be able to pull this, but out of our brains. But best scene, guys. What's your favorite scene to read?
Man.
I'm going to immediately say it's probably going to come from me out of the first 2 books, or maybe Huck Finn.
Yeah. So you've got all those really great scenes of Pride and Prejudice, the funny scenes, the painful scenes. East of Eden has such great scenes. And then Huck. Oh, man. I don't know how to... it's weird to say that for him, the Bell Tolls is the most cinematic and that Hemingway paints the best scenes and to not have him be part of the conversation. But I think when it comes down to best scene, there's a lot more that has to go into it, doesn't it?
Although Hemingway, for some of those flashbacks, Pablo taking the village, that could be in the running. If you just forget about Robert Jordan and Maria, the other stuff in the book, the General what's his face's last stand up on the hill, pretty great.
Yeah.
Okay, so
those would be. You
got Huck on the raft with Jim.
Are you going to choose a specific moment from that, or can we just call that a scene? I think just to keep the contest interesting, you have to choose a moment, which I could do. I'm already thinking of one. Mine might be where Huck, call me a sentimental old softy, but where Huck lies to Jim about, and then realizes that Jim was cared about him and feels bad.
That's what I would think.
Or when Huck wakes up and Jim's crying about his daughter.
Mm-hmm. That's a good one. Or where he decides not to turn him over.
Yeah. Just
really
his thought process is so sweet.
Really, really sweet. But I don't think those scenes, as nice as they are, and as much sentimental value as they have for me from my childhood, I don't think they stand next to the scenes of East of Eden. Mm-mm. As artful and as funny and as awesome as some of Austen's scenes are, I don't think. For me, it really comes down to 3 scenes from East of Eden probably being 1, 2, 3. And those are Sam fights Adam, Cal and Adam at the breakfast table, and the final scene. And you might even go ahead and throw Cal confronting Kathy or Adam confronting Kathy in there too. It's just like...
I might throw, just for, call me an old softy.
Or the Lee and Abra scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Lee and Abra scene.
I never had a daughter or whatever. That's like a real tearjerker.
Either that one or the breakfast scene.
So for me, I think it's just the breakfast scene.
Yeah.
With Cal and Adam at the breakfast table after Cal's night in jail.
It's really powerful.
Oh my goodness.
Well, first of all, before we get there, does anybody want to argue do you want to argue, Brandon, for anything from outside of East of Eden?
No, I was already thinking of the breakfast scene.
Okay.
I can't. Everything about that scene is just drawn so perfectly. It's so poignant. I'm going to cry thinking about it.
Yeah.
I really, that scene is just perfect.
And he suddenly can be like naked with his father.
Oh man, it's so raw and so painful. And I think that's a scene that maybe you have to be a man, a son, for it to be the best scene. So maybe we should be able to step outside of that and evaluate. But for me personally, there's just nothing that holds a candle to that scene. He gets so much at the core of father hunger of every boy and the inadequacies and weaknesses of every father. That's just, it's so well done. It's so good. I mean, if I start to think about that scene and paint it again, just let it come back to me, I will start crying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's probably the only test we need.
The power of it. Yeah, it captures what Steinbeck is really good at, which is the scene building. So like Lee coming back and deciding he's going to stay. It's these just little moments that are beautiful.
And it was the second book that we read, and it still is the most poignant and powerful.
Yeah.
And once you start thinking about the scenes of that book, there's really no end to it. Even if you want to do like Liza's plane ride. You know,
there's just some weird scene, or Liza with the parrot. There's just like some.
It's really great. It's just really great.
Or anything with son Tom. I mean, it's just when his sister comes back and he accidentally kills her with the sickness, and oh boy.
And that book had some really dry and dumb moments.
Yeah, well, there was always, we've mentioned it multiple times, but when the thighs of women lost their clutch, Jake.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but that's the thing you love about Steinbeck, that man, he wasn't trying to be a stylist. He's trying to tell good stories in the context of a good story, and he swung for the fences.
Yep.
Man, he sure hit a lot of them out of the park, and you'd take the strikeouts with the home runs.
And he knew how to make a character alive. So, what was the one brother who was the businessman?
Charles?
Sam's son.
Yeah. Will.
Will, that's right, yeah.
He gets the scene. He gets that one scene where he kind of comes alive, too.
Yeah.
Is that when Cal comes to him, and he, sees himself in Cal?
Yep.
Yeah.
So each character has a moment.
That was the biggest book we read with the most intricate plot.
We can still name characters.
The second one, and we can name very, very tertiary characters and call up those scenes. And
I couldn't pull the general for whom the bell tolls to save my life. But
if I was a betting man, I'd say that it's going to be very similar to the other big book we're reading.
Yeah, I'm going to give it to East of Eden. I'm trying to think if anybody deserves to kind of be mentioned as a.
We went in Huck. We went to Huck on the raft. I'm just gonna throw a couple other scenes from Huck out there. Huck in the cabin with his dad.
Yeah, it's a nice. I'm laughing because you're right. I mean, it's a great scene.
It's a great scene out in the graveyard toward the end with the rainstorm, the Duke and the King, and everybody slipping away.
Oh yeah, that's a great gothic crowd pleaser of a scene. That's just a fun. Little turn of storytelling there. That's a great scene.
Just for its visceral gut-wrenchingness when the Duke and the King show up.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
It's a really powerful scene when they show up. Just the way that your heart sinks and you just want to die.
Other than the death of that Hatfield and McCoy family, whatever their names were, that's pretty powerful too. I do feel we'd be remiss not to mention Christmas Carol, which is basically, we're not going to give it any prizes because we're also used to it and we've seen the movies a billion times and nobody wants to waste our best scene vote on the Christmas Carol. But the Christmas Carol is basically just a collection of some of the best scenes ever written, just sewed together. So let's not.
Macbeth is literally scenes.
Well, that opening scene of Macbeth, certainly is striking.
Yep. The three witches deserve a mention. And let's see here. The part where Mina and Lucy listen to that guy, that old man on the bench, tell them stories in an indecipherable dialect.
That's such a fantastic scene.
Well, if you do want to go Dracula, Jonathan Harker.
Just the whole approach
at the beginning, the carriage ride.
The three weird sisters.
The three weird sisters
in the room.
When he's exploring.
Dracula climbing down the wall is great.
Yeah.
And then that attack on Mina, pretty great, where Stoker has his one good turn of phrase that I forgot to mention in the podcast when we did it. I'll mention it now, where he says he was dunking her head in the blood like a child pushes a kitten's head into milk. So that was a nice little horrific bit of storytelling there, Mr. Stoker. But yeah, East of Eden is, I think, obviously going to be mine. Yeah, the breakfast scene, super powerful. Timshel at the end, hard to argue with that.
Mm-hmm. That scene's what set me crying for 45 minutes, but
it's the culmination of the novel. I mean,
that's right. It's the payoff for everything that came before, and you can,
it shows a real art. I think in terms of a storyteller's craft, that final scene's pretty fantastic because he's just the whole novel, he's like, Timshel's important. Did you forget about Timshel? Hey, he's going to say, Timshel, probably some Timshel.
Remember that time we talked about Timshel?
Yeah, Timshel, yeah. I've never forgotten Timshel. And so you're like, Timshel, when's Timshel going to come? Here comes Timshel. Oh, it's Timshel. And then you burst into tears.
I guess Timshel's going to be the last word of the novel, you say to yourself halfway through the book. And
right.
And it is.
And then it is.
Basically
and you still lose it.
And you still lose it. Yeah, so
that's really great.
I don't know how he does that. That's just magic. That's just storyteller magic, and I wouldn't have a clue how to tell a student what to learn from that. It's just a great storyteller being a great storyteller, and hard to argue with it. But yeah, probably the breakfast scene. My heart goes out to Abra and Lee. Actually, that might be my vote. It's just.
Stick to it. You stick to Lee over Sam. Stick to that Lee and Abra scene.
Yeah, it's just, I love Lee. He's my vote for coolest, male character, I think. I love that he gets this reward. It's so sweet, so nice. I mean, there's so much Schadenfreude. A lot of the best literature is about watching bad guys get it, but even more hits the pleasure center of your brain to watch good guys get rewarded. And that's what that Lee scene is all about. It's just
in the actual world of the book, he's such a thankless hero.
Yeah.
We're the only people that see his heroism.
Yeah, nobody gets it except for when you finally realize Abra gets it, because Cal doesn't get it. Cal takes him for granted. Adam takes him for granted. The whole community is just mean to him, basically racist. And then when you realize, Abra gets it and she appreciates him and she loves him and he's a better father to her and a father that she loves more than her real father, it's just like, makes me want to lose it. So come on down.
John
Steinbeck, yeah. All right, guys, we're rounding something like the home stretch here. Best quote. Anybody gonna be able to pull that?
Whew.
Nope.
I will not. Sorry.
I can give you a couple off the top of my head.
What?
Tim Schul?
Tim Schul would be a good one.
Unsex me.
Unsex me, spirits. Macbeth obviously has...
Double boil in trouble.
Clutch of...
Women's thighs lost their clutch.
Women's thighs lost their clutch. Yeah. We don't even remember the context for that at all. All I remember is that women's thighs had clutch, and then they lost it.
Some Mary quotes from Pride and Prejudice.
Oh, yeah. Well, Pride and Prejudice
What are men to mountains?
Yeah.
Pride and Prejudice is full of good quotes. Mr. Bennett has some good lines in there. It's a fine world and it's worth dying for, whatever, from Hemingway. It was good.
That's right.
Yeah.
We're going to have to give it to something, guys. Should we give it to King Laugh?
Give it to King Laugh. Yes.
King Laugh. Come on down. Jake refuses to clap for King Laugh.
Boo.
All right, you got a better?
Humbug.
Humbug?
Okay, humbug.
Come on. There's got to be something from either
Boil.
Bless us, everyone.
Nope, boo. Pride and Prejudice. It is a truth universally acknowledged that a man with a good fortune must be in want of a lady.
Wife.
There we go.
Okay. No, Jake doesn't want to clap for it.
I don't know what's going to win me.
Well, surely, Macbeth.
One of my favorite lines is just when Sam is spouting off his nonsense,
Did I do it right?
And then he says, did I do it right? That was a really great line.
That was a great line.
But it's not the best quote. It's not a quote, but it's a great line.
Yeah, you just have to look it up. You can read it. You quoted it.
Did I do it right?
I just quoted it. Ooh, what about... So, the Spear Danes in Days Gone By. Should we give it to Haney?
So, the Spear Danes in Days Gone By.
Haney's not going to win any other awards.
Yeah, let's give it to Haney. I can get behind that.
Haney.
Come on down, Haney.
I think it's Heaney, isn't it?
Heaney.
Oh, sorry. Heaney. Come on down. Heiny. All right, guys, we come to it. The book. Best book of the year. Book you're most... Yeah, no, it's all the same thing. Best book you're most likely to recommend.
East of Eden.
Over Pride and Prejudice?
Yep.
Oh, so it's going to be a split vote for you, huh? You don't know what you're going for.
I didn't come into this knowing what it was going to be. It'd be one of those two.
I didn't know what it was going to be until you just asked it. It was going to be one of those two, but I've had so many of the feels brought back up from East of Eden that...
For whom the bell tolls.
Boo! Does anybody... Do you want to make an argument for a dark horse, Brandon, or would it be one of those two?
There are only two that come close to... Well, Huck is right, but no. When it comes to the one I'd be most likely to recommend, if I had to sell somebody on reading a book, there are a lot of people, maybe a wider audience, I would recommend Pride and Prejudice to. East of Eden, I'm not going to be as inclined to recommend that to a woman because it's so father and son oriented. Pride and Prejudice is just full of wisdom for everybody in every stage of life, married, unmarried, male, female, especially if you're single. And so there are lots of single people that I wish... I think I said in those episodes that when I was teaching on relationships to college students, I read the book and I almost just wanted to make everybody read the book because it's so full of wisdom. So there's just a whole lot of timeless wisdom about what it means to be a man, what it means to be a woman, about relationships, about humility, and that Steinbeck doesn't get... he can't touch the level of wisdom and sophistication that's Austen does, but what Steinbeck gets, man, it's so powerful.
I almost feel like Steinbeck's going to get it because the course of this conversation has given me the warm fuzzies about Steinbeck, but I feel like I probably could have gotten the warm fuzzies about Austen if we'd ended up talking. We just like so thoroughly talked about her at the beginning of the year. We didn't really have to like
talk about her again.
But if I'd start thinking about how funny Mary was, or Mr. Collins, or just the wisdom. I mean, in hearing you start to talk a little bit about Austen, I was like, oh, Austen's.
Well, here's the thing: if there's a book on this list I could pick up tomorrow and start again, it would probably be Pride and Prejudice, and the reason is because it's a lot of things. One thing is because it's one of my hesitations in recommending East of Eden would be it's so long and it's not going to start to pay off until you get about halfway through, and then you got to get into the final third. And so there are things that could stop you.
Yeah, Jane Austen's like you're going to get a nugget every chapter.
And you're just going to learn so much. And it's going to be pleasurable, enjoyable. You're going to get carried straight through to the end. There's nothing that's going to hold you up on a first read. I did get held up on my second read, but that was just recalling the pain of scenes to come.
Right.
But yeah, it's just going to drive you right through. It's going to be funny. It's going to be moving. It's not going to make you cry or anything like that. It might make you cry just a little bit just because of if you're really sentimental about, an honorable man doing what's right.
You get to see good people rewarded, like I was talking about with Lee. You have some of that same anti-Schadenfreude, whatever it's called.
But it's nowhere near the payoff and power of what Steinbeck's able to do in East of Eden. So for young men, especially young men who really need to process their relationships to their brothers and fathers as a first thing. This is East of Eden, East of Eden, East of Eden, East of Eden, East of Eden. But to a more general audience, maybe it is Pride and Prejudice.
What were you going to say were your dark horse? You said there were two that you could also see being in the running.
For dark horse?
Brandon.
Well, for people who drive and like to listen to audiobooks, Beowulf, read by Seamus Heaney. Hands
Pretty
down.
awesome.
Oh, the one, if it's holiday
and he
time,
reads it himself.
Yep. Holiday time, read Christmas
Dracula.
Carol. Oh, yeah. Dracula.
Which holiday are you talking about here?
Christmas.
Oh, I see.
A Christmas Carol. It's fun to read. Dickens, he's fun. He makes the story fun. But if I was going to recommend a book to anyone, it would be Pride and Prejudice. East of Eden would be very close second. The reason Pride and Prejudice is because most men wouldn't want to be told to read it or have it recommended to them, and yet it would do them a world of good to read it.
True story.
So, but if I knew I was recommending it to a particular type of man, a man who I thought needed to read it, it would be East of Eden, hands down. And it's kind of tied. But Jake's right. I don't think I would recommend East of Eden to a woman.
At least not as the top choice here.
No.
I might recommend it to her if she wanted to understand a man.
Can it be tied?
Well,
it would have to be, helping her understand her husband or her father or something like that. I mean, it's not that I recommend, if you're a woman listening to this podcast, I recommend that you read East of Eden. It's just a question of what would you be most likely to recommend maybe to the most people. And I just think that book's so much for fathers and sons. It's not it's not likely to mean as much to you.
Because you're right, which I could pick up Pride and Prejudice and start reading it again.
But whether you're a man or a woman, that it's immaterial when it comes to Pride and Prejudice. It's just going to be awesome and funny and helpful.
I'd be sad to see either of those books not appear on a list of like the books we're going to save for humanity.
Go into your time capsule.
The others I could part with.
Oh, it'd be tough.
Tough, but those are the two.
Yeah, Huck would be really hard for me to part with. That would be the other one that would be the hardest.
If you want to say, like, you must choose two of these books and all others will be obliterated from your memory, from history, from time, someone will use a magical sci-fi weapon that takes these books and removes them from our world and from all, from all time and memory. There's no question in my mind that Pride and Prejudice and East of Eden would be the ones I would save. It'd be hard to lose Dracula, but no, it'd be hard to lose Huck Finn. That'd be the next one. But man, Christmas Carol would be hard too. Wow. Just because the movies, if nothing else. I am going to cheat. It's my podcast. Darn it. I started it.
He's going to pick an author.
No, I'm going to abstain. and let
What?
Brandon be the Pride and Prejudice vote. You be the East of Eden vote. I refuse to break that vote. I think they're both fantastic books. I think young men that want to understand relationships, women themselves, men need to read Austen. I think ladies and people could. I know what you mean about East of Eden, but at the same time, the reason I read East of Eden in the first place is my mom read it and loved it. I think there's a lot that both sexes can learn from both books, and I'd recommend them wholeheartedly to everyone. And probably if I had to choose one to be obliterated, I can't. I mean, I'm not going to make that choice. You guys can't make me make that choice. Jane Austen wins and Steinbeck wins and East of Eden wins. Pride and Prejudice is more fun. It's more funny. East of Eden is more powerful and...
but funny.
Also funny, though. Jane Austen is a better person, a better Christian, a better writer than Steinbeck, the serial marriagizer, was. So if I had to choose one person to remove from history, I suppose it'd be Steinbeck over. I'd let Jane Austen live, unless somebody just wants to put a gun to my head.
I know that this is a really nice way to round this up, but I'm not sure I want to let you make me be Mr. Steinbeck, because I was sort of straddling the fence still.
Well, can we all just agree to straddle the fence together then?
Yeah, I'll straddle the fence.
You don't have to straddle. You came down on Pride and Prejudice.
Oh man, you made a good argument, Brandon. Pride and Prejudice. I think it's probably Pride and Prejudice, but I'm just not prepared to obliterate East of Eden from the conversation. I mean, East of Eden made me cry for a combined 70 minutes now between both readings. I mean, it's powerful. And the thing about both those books that I would say is that both those books, like... Look, it's going to sound corny, but if you want to be a better person, read both those books. Like, you will understand yourself better. You will understand your place in the universe better. You will understand. Once again, I hear Jake's voice in the back of my head, but East of Eden doesn't do it for the ladies. Okay.
I did not say that. I did not say that.
It doesn't do it as much. It is more for the men. And yes, it is. Your voice is right. But, man... Every woman that wants to understand men, which I would think would be every woman, you should read East of Eden. I make no choice. Here I stand. I can do no other.
All right, then. Yay, Nathan.
Yay, Nathan. Jake refuses to clap for me.
Very brave of you, Martin Luther.
If I have to make a choice, I can't make a choice. You think I should make a choice, Jake? What choice would you make if you were in my shoes?
Probably go with Pride and Prejudice.
Yeah, it's Pride and Prejudice. Jane Austen's wonderful.
I feel you. These are two books very hard to choose from.
You're making me feel like I need to defend myself.
I think you defended yourself just fine.
No, you did it. You made a great argument for
think that.
Well, Nathan's all like, Jake says East of Eden's not for women.
Oh, that point.
That's just like total garbage. It's not what I said.
I don't think women should read.
Yeah.
Well, what about cookbooks?
Yeah, they can read cookbooks. That's fine.
They need to be taught to read
recipes.
Yeah, that's about it.
Right. So if women shouldn't read, then Pride and Prejudice loses some points right there. Do you think they should write?
Ooh, wait. Paradox.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I made you sound bad. I didn't make you sound bad, though. What did I say? Oh, you just...
Jake thinks East of Eden's not for the ladies. I mean, if I'm going to be dumb like Jake and say East of Eden's not for ladies, then I guess, I could be dumb like Jake. I think that's what you said, about how you said it.
Something like that. I don't want to choose, but it's Pride and Prejudice, but I don't want to choose. Least likely to recommend. Worst book of the year, guys.
For him, the bell tolls.
Yeah, I think we've already made a good argument for it. It's For Him the Bell Tolls.
Gilead. Just didn't like it. Rubbed me the wrong way somehow. I wasn't around to discuss it. You guys, I had a nice discussion. I listened to it with the Mysterious Phantom. But
it must be my fond memories of that guy. That is
the Mysterious Phantom?
Yeah. He's a great guy.
He had a little more equanimity as a host, I think.
Yeah.
You guys liked him better? As far as best hosts go, I'll give it to the Mysterious Phantom if you want.
How about that machine that was going to end? That blew us all up, remember?
Oh, yeah. That
was a good host.
Yeah, that was a good host.
Questiontron 2000.
The Questiontron 2000, yeah. Let's just see if I can order a Questiontron 3000 for next year. Yeah, Gilead just was such a lame story, and John Ames was a lame man, and the way that it ended with the cheap grace that it offered, just I don't care if she was a good writer. Gilead was like 5 good scenes that will stick with me and nothing else. For Whom the Bell Tolls, at least, is kind of an interesting action-adventure Hollywood kind of story with some good blood and thunder and romance and stuff.
I can't see myself recommending For Whom the Bell Tolls under any circumstances. I just can't.
Because the story and the character is just too repugnant and lame.
It's just lame. It's just totally lame. I can't see myself recommending Gilead to somebody who needs to slow down and, slow it down. You're moving too fast.
Gotta make the moment last.
Yeah.
Want him to kick back on the cobblestones.
Appreciate the moment.
Live in the moment, man. Hey, Dad, before it passes you by, learn to treasure that stupid dandelion your kid brought you. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. I probably still wouldn't.
Zuzu's petals.
It's
Yes.
interesting.
Just go watch
perhaps
It's a Wonderful Life.
Yeah, perhaps you guys, just because you guys are both fathers, I don't have that
there's some
instinct. Maybe
sweetness
there might be some sweetness that I'm missing. That's possible. Man, Gilead is just lame. I mean, For Whom the Bell Tolls may be a whiff, like he swung for it and he missed, but at least he swung for it. Gilead's just like, I don't know, maybe it is an anti-modern bias or something, but Gilead just rubs me the wrong way. Of all the books that we read, it's just like Marilyn Robinson is the most full of herself, annoying writer who thinks she has something to say and doesn't. You could say all the same things about Hemingway. Maybe I'm being sexist. I don't know. Maybe it's just personal preference again, but Gilead is just like...
I don't know, that Beowulf writer was pretty full of himself.
Oh, yeah, well, I suppose.
Hemingway's philosophy is just repugnant, and I don't see... I can't imagine recommending that to Elliot when he's old enough to read.
Yeah, that's true. You got a point.
Here's some really two-dimensional machismo for you to...
Yeah.
That's gross.
I don't want him aspiring to be Robert Jordan.
You certainly don't want your daughters to aspire to be Maria.
Nope.
No.
Okay. Well, do I have to choose? Can we just say they both suck?
Yeah, we can say that.
I mean,
we already have.
Would you genuinely recommend Gilead, Danny? But okay, fine. For Whom the Bell Tolls loses. It's the worst book of the year. But now Gilead, would you actually recommend? I would not actually.
I can't imagine recommending it.
I wouldn't recommend. Nobody needs to slow down that much. I mean, just like.
Well, there's just probably a better.
And if they do, I think we'll find other authors who could do that for them.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna read Willa Cather.
Or here's an idea: get some poetry. Read some actual poetry.
Yeah.
Or
but Willa Cather's who I was thinking. She teaches you to slow down fairly well.
Yeah. I just think you can get what Gilead gives you in other places, and you can get it better, and you can get it mixed in with a better message and with better characters and with a better story.
Yep.
So,
probably.
Gilead's just the one that rubbed me the wrong way.
Toss them both in the fire pit.
Both in the fire pit. We're going to put them both in a time capsule and then set that time capsule on fire.
There we go. Good riddance.
It's funny that Jungle Book and Dracula
have survived.
Survived our least likely to recommend.
Yeah.
I'd recommend both of those in a heartbeat before either of the other two.
I would,
The
too.
Jungle Book?
Well, the Jungle Book, at least I'd say Rikki Tikki Tavi's great, and the Mowgli stories aren't terrible. And
A certain person might like them.
Jungle Book, I don't have a problem.
Sure.
The idea that someone out there likes the Jungle Book is fine with me. The idea that somebody out there likes For Whom the Bell Tolled or Gilead is like, okay, that person's an idiot. You know what I mean?
Keep an eye in.
You're making a mistake. You're wrong if you think that For Whom the Bell Tolls or Gilead is a good novel. If you like the Jungle Book, then your taste is just different than mine. Whatever, live and let live. And Dracula,
We have high standards here.
yeah. Dracula is what it is. What it is. It's lame. It's kind of lame. It's kind of fun. It's got a great first 50 pages. Yeah. So
There we go.
there we go. Into the fires. This is our official bookening decision, by the way, about Gilead. We've decided that it's not going to stand the test of time. So posterity, check it out. Were we right or wrong?
Quit reading it.
Yep.
Judge us.
Judge us. Yeah. 100 years from now, posterity. Do you even know what we're talking about?
Do you even listen to podcasts?
Anyway, guys, I think we need to be done. Let me just quickly announce the books for next year that we'll be reading so everybody can know.
Probably we don't have a really good drum roll effect to put in there.
Yeah, that's true.
Anybody have any final thoughts about the books from this year?
Nope.
How many actually do make the time capsule?
Oh, that's fun. Pride and Prejudice.
Yes.
East of Eden.
I'm going to say yes.
I'm with you
Huck
so far.
Finn.
Yep.
Yes.
Macbeth.
Yes.
Yep.
Christmas Carol.
Yeah.
And Heaney's version of Beowulf.
Yes.
Yes, Heaney.
Some with all of that except
Christmas Carol.
Aw, come on. Have a heart.
Humbug. Your love-hate relationship with Dickens continues.
Yeah.
We only have 100 spots in our time capsule. So as the seasons progress, we may end up having to eliminate things.
Okay, but we're going to go ahead and say that
Fine, we can put it in there.
But in the future, if it fills up, I'm with you. That's the first to go.
So far.
Yeah.
Of these? Yeah.
Yeah.
Next might be...
Well, as long as we got 100 spots and
This is going to sound... Maybe, yeah, it's funny. I think the next to go, just because there are better ones, would be Macbeth.
Yeah, I think so.
Isn't that weird?
It's supposedly one of the biggest crowd pleasers, but I don't think it touches the best of Shakespeare.
It doesn't please
This
me.
crowd.
This crowd, yeah. Macbeth is not one of my favorite Shakespeare.
Yeah, I would drop Macbeth first after Christmas Carol, and then I would probably drop Beowulf.
Yeah, I would drop Beowulf because I don't really care about the story. I just like Heaney's. I mean, if we're being honest about it.
Yeah, we're just... I mean, if we want to talk about stylists, I mean, what Heaney did was like
yeah, he should,
unreal.
Yeah. All right, guys, let's go back.
Retroactively give the style award to Heaney as the dark horse.
I think that's probably true. He should get it.
We had such trouble with that anyway. We were trying to give it to Robinson and Hemingway. Who both wrote novels we hate. So
That's right.
Forget them.
Yeah.
Heaney wins it.
Yeah.
It would make sense for a poet to be the best stylist anyway.
Yeah, of course Heaney wins. We're idiots.
we just saw Beowulf up there, and all of us went, ugh.
Before I read the list of books for next year, anything anybody wants to retroact from the other podcast, like anything you regret saying or think you should have added, or anything you want to confess, or you're not going to be able to pull anything right now probably, but I thought
I confess that I never finished Gilead.
Yeah, well, that says it all as far as Gilead being a dumb book.
I confess that I only watched Macbeth.
I also only watched Macbeth, but I don't consider that to be a confession.
I read at least the first act.
I confess that I listened to quite a few of these books on audible.com.
All right, drum roll, please.
Trolling motor.
All right, so these are the novels we're going to be reading next year, fellas. January, Anna Karenina. Yay, great novel. I'm looking forward to it. February, Jane Austen comes back in high style with Emma, one of her popular favorites. Everybody looking forward to that?
February is Austen month.
February will be Austen month for every year of the Bookening for as long as we do this podcast, which will be
cycling back through
at least 2 years.
Yeah. March, That Hideous Strength by C.S. Lewis. That's a really interesting book. April, we're bringing up the Southern Gothic, I don't know what I want to say about it, As I Lay Dying by Faulkner. Ooh. That is a interesting one for me because I read a lot of Faulkner when I was young, and a lot of it went over my head, and I'm wondering if it was Faulkner's fault or my fault. I don't know.
Faulkner's fault, but hey,
okay.
We'll talk about that next
Spoiler alert, Brandon says it was Faulkner. May... Winnie the Pooh.
Yes.
I am excited. I know a lot of people love Milne. I've never read in Milne. I know the Walt Disney movies. June, Heart of Darkness.
Oof.
Conrad. We will also be watching Apocalypse Now because obviously...
why not?
Why not? The great adaptation. Yeah, sure is it. We'll be discussing that in June. July, one of my personal favorite, Borges, Labyrinth, short story collection.
Forgot about that one.
Why are you laughing, Brandon?
Oh, it's going to be crazy. That's fantastic, but it's going to be crazy.
That's weird. I don't even know what we're going to say about that.
We're going to have all sorts of people wondering what we were thinking.
Right. August, Shakespeare month, A Midsummer Night's Dream.
That'd be a very nice turn from Macbeth.
That's a good Shakespeare in the Park kind of
play. I have to admit, I've never read it. I don't really know what it's about. I think there's some star-crossed lovers or something. I know it's a comedy and things happen.
Greek gods get involved. It's crazy stuff.
So I'm looking forward to that. Jake, you've read Midsummer's Night's Dream.
Mm-hmm.
September, My Antonia. I've not read it. You guys read it?
No.
Yes.
You read it? Willa Cather? I'm sure it'll be good. October, Halloween month. We're going to do a little Bradbury. Something Wicked This Way Comes. Anybody read that?
Nope.
I have read it, loved it as a kid, don't know whether it'll hold up at all. November, here's one that probably a lot of people won't have even heard of, Martin Dressler. That's a novel by Stephen Milhauser. I don't think either one of you guys have read it.
I haven't.
I read it, really enjoyed it. November is going to be our Pulitzer Prize winning month because we did Gilead this last year, and Martin Dressler is also a Pulitzer, I don't ever know whether I'm saying that right, prize winning novel. Stephen Millhauser, wonderful writer of kind of weird, uncanny, I don't even know how to describe him, but he's wonderful. Check him out if you haven't already. I'm looking forward to that one.
It's got a lot of short stories.
He's primarily a short story writer, and his short story stories are fantastic, but so is his novel. December, going to be Mr. James Joyce with the Dubliners.
It's a very interesting sophomore year we got.
Yeah, these are some interesting books. I've read
James Joyce is going to be fun to talk about.
Yeah, I've read less of these books than I did last year, so curious to see how it goes, what we say. I'm looking forward to it. And in summation, guys, I want to wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year as we approach January. It's been a fun year of doing the Bookening together. I think I've learned a little something and enjoyed you guys' company along the way, and look forward to doing it all over again in 2017.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Bless us, everyone.
Humbug.